Hey, what's up everyone, it's your girl Barron and today I'll be sharing with you my March TBR. But just to let you know, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing TBRs anymore. It's mostly going to be like my reading plans or my reading goals pretty much for like the months. I think with the TBR, it sort of gives me like a strict type of like ideal plan of what I'll be reading, and so usually I am becoming a mood reader, and I change my mind when it comes to the books that I want to read each month. So it always changes, so I don't want to restrict myself into reading just these books, or if I change my mind, not read that book and pick something else up. So I'm not sure if I'll be doing any more TBRs, but I'll just give you my currently reading update as well as what I am currently thinking about reading for March. So I think that's what I'm going to be start doing, is pretty much do that rather than do TBRs. But let's go ahead and get started with the books that I'm currently, I have one book that I'm currently reading, and that is Home is Not a Country by Sophia Hilo. I have the book downstairs, but I took the cover off so it's easier for me to read. But yeah, so I have this book. This came out a week ago, and it's about, it's about Nima, or I'll give you the synopsis for this book. It says, Nima doesn't feel understood by her mother, who grew up far away in a different land, by her suburban town, which makes her feel too much like an outsider to fit in, and not enough like an outsider to feel like she belongs somewhere else. At least she has her childhood friend Hatham, with whom she can let her guard down and be herself. Until she doesn't. As the ground is pulled out from under her, Nima must grapple with the phantom of a life not chosen, the name her parents didn't give her at birth, Yasmin. But what other name? That other girl might just be more real than Nima knows, and more hungry. And the life of Nima has, the one she keeps wishing were someone else's, and she might have to fight for it with a fierceness she never knew she had. So this, I believe, this is a book by Sophia Hilo. She says she's Sudanese by way of Washington, D.C. She holds an MFA from the New School and was founding member of SLAM at NYU. She is the recipient of a Cave Canem Fellowship, a Wallace Stegner Fellowship at Stanford University, and a Ruth Lilly and Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Fellowship from the Poetry Foundation. Sophia is listed in Forbes Africa's 2018 30 Under 30, and her first book of poems, The January Children, won multiple awards. Home is Not a Country is her first book for young adults. It's a love letter to the diaspora communities she grew up in. So far I'm reading this and I'm loving it. It's really deep, and I think I recommend everybody to read it. So this is what I'm currently reading. And then another book that I'm going to be reading this month, I joined like a little book club with amazing ladies, pretty much with this book, where it has different stories from these different authors, and it's a romance that is only one bed. And we have, for the authors, we have Lucy Eden, Rebel Carter, Renee Dahlia, Lauren Canali, Sarah F. Lilly, AZ Louise, Torrance Sine, and Ali Williams. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to reading this. It even says passion, joy, love, only one bed. So yeah, it's a collection of different stories, which I cannot wait to read this. So I have this on my radar as well for what I'll be reading in March. Next book is a comic, because I'm really interested in reading this. A lot of her books I wasn't really enjoying, but I still want to give her a shot and continue on reading some of her books that I think I will find interesting and actually really enjoy. And that is Shuri by Nnedi Okorafor, and illustrated by Leonardo Romero and Jordi Belair. And for this book, it says, the world fell in love with her in the Black Panther film. Now Shuri takes flight in a new series written by best-selling author Nnedi Okorafor and drawn by Eisner Award-nominated artist Leonardo Romero. T'Challa has disappeared, and everyone is looking at the next in line for the throne. Wakanda expects Shuri to take on the mantle of Black Panther and lead their nation, but she's happiest in a lab, surrounded by her own inventions. She'd rather be testing gauntlets than throwing them down. So it's time for Shuri to go rescue her brother yet again, with a little help from Storm, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot. But when her outer space adventure puts the entire cultural history of her continent at risk from an energy-sapping alien threat, can Shuri and Iron Man save Africa? So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to reading this, like so much. I love Shuri, I love Black Panther and everything, so definitely looking forward to reading this comic. So we got this, which it is also Marvel, which I do love. So we have this that I do plan to read for sure in March. Next book that I definitely have to read because it's something that I've been wanting to read for a very long time, especially since it just got pushed back from when it was supposed to be released, and that is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. So looking forward to this, and this is the Alcrate edition of her book, and I am so pumped to read this. So for this book, I'll read the synopsis. It says, 16-year-old Decca lives in fear and anticipation of the blood ceremony that will determine whether she becomes a member of her village. Already different from everyone else because of her unnatural intuition, Decca prays for red blood so she can finally feel like she belongs. But on the day of the ceremony, her blood runs gold, the color of impurity, and Decca knows she will face a consequence worse than death. Then, a mysterious woman comes to her with a choice: stay in the village and submit to her fate, or leave to fight for the emperor in an army of girls just like her. They are called Alakai, near immortals with rare gifts, and they are the only ones who can stop the empire's greatest threat. Knowing the dangers that lie ahead, yet yearning for acceptance, Decca decides to lead the only life she's ever known. But as she journeys to the capital to train for the biggest battle of her life, she discovers that the Great Walled City holds many surprises. Nothing and no one are quite what they seem to be, not even Decca herself. In this bold and immersive fantasy, a young heroine fights to save a world that would dare to tame her, and discovers that she is her own fiercest weapon. So definitely looking forward to reading this, and I just love the cover so much. And if you take the dust jacket off, look at that. That is just beautiful. So yeah, like I said, this has been on my radar for such a long time, especially when it got pushed back from its originally release date, which was sometime last year. But it finally is out, so I'm definitely going to take this moment to read it for March. So I have this book. Next book that has been on my shelf for a minute now, not for a minute, but just a couple of weeks, and I definitely need to get into this. It's written in verse, and that is Muted by Tammy Charles. And it says, he had the power, she had the voice. And it's a novel in verse, and it's New York Times bestselling author. So we have this book as well. And if you take this dust jacket off, look at that. This is just stunning. I love the cover of this book so much. I would even take the dust jacket off and just leave it like this because it is beautiful how it is. Like, look at that. So for this book, I can read the synopsis for this one as well. It says, be bold, get seen, be heard. For 17-year-old Denver, music is everything: writing, performing, and her ultimate goal, escaping her very small, very white hometown. So Denver is more than ready on the day she and her best friends, Dolly and Shaq, sing their way into the orbit of the biggest R&B star in the world, Sean Mercury Ellis. Merc gives them everything: parties, perks, wild nights, plus hours and hours in the recording studio. Even the painful sacrifices and the lies the girls have to tell are all worth it, until they're not. Denver begins to realize that she's trapped in Merc's world, struggling to hold on to her own voice as the dream turns into a nightmare. She must make a choice: lose her big break or get broken. Inspired by true events, Muted is a fearless exploration of the dark side of the music industry, the business of the exploitation, how a girl's dreams can be used against her, and what it takes to fight back. Which, I know the industry is very, very cruel, the music industry, and I don't know why it is that way, but it just has been for so long. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading Muted. So we have this one as well, which I'm definitely going to be reading in March. Next book that highly anticipate on reading for this year, and that is Reaper of Souls by Rita Barron. This is the second book of Kingdom of Souls, which is the first book. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading this, and it says power is a gift and a curse. And just look at the cover. It is beautiful. And if you take Dust Jacket off, it is black with red foiling. And for this book, I can read the synopsis. It says, the magic Ara wanted for so long is finally hers, but her new gifts came at too steep a price. Ara is the last surviving witch doctor of the tribal lands, and she has been left alone to pick up the pieces of her family's betrayal. A kingdom plunged into chaos and a love that can never be. But as she struggles to rebuild, Ara discovers a glimmer of hope. There may be survivors who escape the demons' attack on the tribes. And with her new magic, she is the only one who can bring them home. While Ara seeks what is left of her people, her beloved Roderick is intent on hunting down every last demon in the kingdom. Instead, he uncovers a plot that would destroy what's left of their world and Ara with it. The Demon King is far closer than they know, and as they both fight to unravel his schemes, one haunting truth emerges. The demon wants Ara, and he will lay waste to anything or anyone standing between them. So, like I said, this is one of my anticipated reads. I had read the first book in 2019 when it came out and loved it so much. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading more about Ara, her magic, and what has to come, especially with the Demon King. So we have this one. And then we have Lore. This is the Fairloo edition. I definitely wanted to read this because it has a lot to do with like goddesses and gods, mythology, Greek mythology. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading this one as well. And just look at the cover. The Fairloo edition is so beautiful. I love it so much. And if you take the dust jacket off, you have this as well. And then reversible dust jacket. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to reading this. I love Greek mythology, so I definitely want to get into this one. So it says, in modern day New York, a murderous game is about to begin. The Agon. Every 7 years for 1 week only, Zeus punishes the gods by forcing them to walk the earth as mortals, savagely hunted by the descendants of ancient bloodlines, all eager to kill God and seize their divine power and immortality. After her family was brutally murdered by a rival line, Perseus fled, turning her back on the Agon's cruel promises of eternal glory. For years, Lore has honored her parents' memory by doing one thing, surviving. For years, she has pushed away dark thoughts of revenge until now. As the next game dawns, Lore finds Athena gravely wounded on her doorstep. The goddess offers her an alliance against their mutual enemy and a way to leave the Agon So it says the goddess offers her an alliance against their mutual enemy and a way to leave the Agon behind forever. But Lore's decision to rejoin the hunt will come at a deadly cost and may not be enough to stop the rise of a new god with the power to destroy all of humanity. So this sounds really deep. I'm all for gods and goddesses and taking revenge and what have you. And this book definitely sounds action-packed, so I do plan on reading this in March as well. And as you all know, like my reading plans for this month is very ambitious, but I think I can do so. I just have to pace myself a little bit and just have fun on what I'm reading and stuff like that. And just try to schedule my time wisely when I read too. I'm usually a night reader, but sometimes I read throughout the day. So we'll see what happens. And then last but not least, I have Nubia, Real One by L.L. McKinney and illustrated by Robin Smith. So this is like another, it's a graphic novel that I definitely think this will be a quick read for me. And it says, can you be a hero if society doesn't see you as a person? So it says, Nubia has always been a little bit different. As a baby, she showcased Amazonian strength by pushing over a tree to rescue her neighbor's cat. But despite Nubia's similar abilities, the world has no problem telling her that she's no Wonder Woman. And even if she were, they wouldn't want her. Every time she comes to the rescue, she's reminded of how people see her, as a threat. Her moms do their best to keep her safe, but Nubia can't deny the fire within her, even if she's a little awkward about it sometimes, even if it means people assume the worst. When Nubia's best friend, Keisha, is threatened by a boy who thinks he owns the town, Nubia will risk it all, her safety, her home, and her crush on that cute kid in English class, to become the hero society tells her she isn't. It says, from the witty and powerful voice behind A Blade So Black, L.L. McKinney, and with endearing and impressive art by Robin Smith comes a vital story for today about equality, identity, and kicking it with your squad. And it says, featuring a story introduction by Danielle Clayton, New York Times bestselling author of the Bell series and COO of the nonprofit organization We Need Diverse Books. So yes, this is a graphic novel, a young adult graphic novel, and it also it's within the DC universe because it's talking about Wonder Woman. So we have this book that I definitely am going to be reading in March. But that is it, you guys. Those are all pretty much the books that I'm reading, that I plan on reading in March. But who knows, it might change. But yeah, so these are all the books that I have on my radar. And of course, Home is Not a Country as well. So yeah, so these are all the books that I plan on reading, hopefully, and that I succeed on reading all these books. Hopefully I can do that. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching, you guys, and please stay healthy and stay safe. See ya!